You are watching Brighter Kashmir interviews. Today we are discussing Palestine-Israel conflict. Today our team of panelists are Dr. D.K. Giri, Professor International Studies with Jamia Millia Islamia University, Delhi; Frank Huzur, Senior Journalist, biographer of Imran Khan; Joel Rocamora from Philippines, Chairman Emeritus Akabayan Party; Madam Ching from Malaysia; Honorable Parliament Member, Democratic Action Party. Now, Madam, my question goes to you. Not many Islamic countries have come forward in support of Hamas or Hamas against the operation launched by the Israel. What could be the reason? How do you assess the overall international reaction to this operation? And now this time the Pakistan Foreign Minister Shah Mohammad Qureshi is in US. He is trying to mobilize the support for the Palestinian cause. Even he has now, I was just reading, he has told in an interview to CNN, he told that Jews have altogether, they are dominating everywhere, even in the US. So how do you see the situation, and what is your opinion? What is your take regarding this?
Thank you for the questions and thank you for the invitation. I think actually what we should focus now is actually we need to find ways to end Israel aggression, and of course to stop eviction of Palestinians from their homes, and also end occupation of Israel in Gaza and also West Bank. So I think this is an area whereby all the Muslim countries and actually all the all the countries, not just Muslim countries, I would say, actually I think this is an issue that concerns all, is a humanitarian issues, and therefore actually all countries should pay attention to it, and let us try our best to end what is happening in Palestine and Israel now. I think if the international at international level, I think what we can do to support Palestine homeland, actually I think we should focus on helping them to rebuilding their democratic self-determination and also a strong economy. I think that is what we should be focusing on, because I think humanitarian aid is important. But however, I think we must remember that Palestine has economy, and they have factories, business, and agriculture. And I think the world needs to support to rebuild their economy, and then they have to ensure Palestinian workers are empowered and protected. Because right now, I think a lot of Palestinians work in Israel with second-class protection and cheap labor, and I don't think this is something we should tolerate as well. And therefore, to me, I hope that we can continue to give pressure to Israel, and of course, their strong, their good buddy, their best buddy, is stop all these eviction actions and also very aggressive actions. But I think at the same time, I think the international platform or international level, we should also focus on strengthening Palestine.
I'm just trying to interrupt you here. So there's a IOC, he's a strong Muslim body. He's not also coming forward, because Saudi, who's dominating in the world, in the Islamic world, because he has a surplus of oil, crude oil and oil. Then Pakistan is a stronger nuclear power. Nobody is coming forward. What's the reason? Are they afraid from the top? Are they afraid from the US, who is a supreme power in the world? So what is your take regarding this?
I think that perhaps other panelists could answer that, because I do not want to go to. I believe they need to come up with the explanation, but however, from my perspective, I do not want to see it as a fight or as a conflict between Christian and also Muslim. I think what is important is we need to see it as a humanitarian issues, and therefore all countries have a role to play when we want to return peace to that particular area. And therefore, I will not be interested, or I don't want to go into details why certain Muslim countries do not want to take the lead or are not coming forward to do whatever they should do or what they could do. However, I think this is a time whereby we actually get consensus throughout the countries, throughout the world, by actually using the humanitarian ground and not just using regions, because I think certain country actually play out these issues using religion, which I don't think is going to bring peace to that particular area in the shortest time. Because if that is the way we see things, I think it's going to prolong the fight, prolong the crisis, prolong the divide. However, if we all can see this issue through a humanitarian lens, I think that will be an easier ways for us to find solution. And that is my personal views.
Thank you, madam. Mr. Giri, just tell me one thing. Because India earlier has a very long relationship in the with Palestinian. Even there was a huge trade relations between Palestine and India. After the BJP government, it took a shift from to Palestine to Israel. So how does it affect to the India, especially for Kashmir?
Well, you are right. There has been a demonstrable shift with BJP coming to power. But even during Congress rule in 1992, the diplomatic relations with Israel, full diplomatic relations, were established. One perspective is that BJP is not dependent on the Muslim boards in India. That is why perhaps they could dehyphenate Palestine and Israel and went ahead with a deepening relationship with Israel. But even during Congress regime, since independence, 1947, of Palestine as well as India, we had a close relationship with both Israel, not so openly, as well as Palestine. If you remember, in 1962 war, Nehru sought military help when we were at war with China, military help from Israel. And in 1971 war, 1965, 1999 in Kargil. So Israel has been a friend in need. But at the same time, Palestine and India share the history of anti-colonial struggle and occupation by foreign powers. So we have supported Israel as well. So India retains the goodwill of both the countries. In fact, I would have been happier to see India taking a more active role in brokering peace and dialogue between India and Palestine. You talked about Kashmir. Kashmir is a different story, really. It is not comparable to India and Palestine. So I would refrain from commenting on Kashmir. I know as the editor of a daily newspaper in Kashmir, you will be interested in knowing the views, but some other time. But on that, but India has a scope in interlocuting between Palestine and Israel. So, and it has done so in the United Nations Security Council open debate. It made a balanced presentation of India's position. So it would it should continue to deal with both the countries as it is doing now, and see that, like a comrade from Malaysia said, that the durable peace and coexistence between these two countries is revived, and it does exist. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Joel, today in the morning.
Yes.
You are here, Mr. Joel?
Yes, yes.
Today in the morning, ceasefire came into force in Palestine as well as in the Israel, because both the countries have decided to ceasefire due to the help of Egypt. Now the human rights violation was lodged in the Palestine, as well as because Hamas is considered to be a terrorist organization, while as it is Israel said it is a terrorist organization, while America also giving some sort of succor to Palestine, while they said that this is a human rights violation is going abated in Palestine. So, do you think this is eyewash by the US, or he's just baffling other countries regarding this issue?
Okay, now that there's a ceasefire, many people are going to analyze and ask who won and who lost. Okay, because there were 262 victims of Israel bombing in Gaza. It's hard to say that the Gazans won. Okay, because that's too high a cost. But I can say very clearly that Israel, and in particular Bibi Netanyahu, lost. Okay, and the reason is 11 days of war, and the Gazans, Palestinians, managed to sustain their rocket attacks. The number of rockets that have been launched is unprecedented. And it shows the military capability, not just of Hamas, but of the other Palestinian groups in Gaza. So that's one factor. The other is that for the first time, these rockets have reached the heartland of Israel. So that's also a significant development. And lastly, but I think in many ways most importantly, the general strike received almost universal support by Palestinians, not just in the occupied territories, but Israel itself.
Also, we'll shift to the another. Madam, my question to you is: Israel has intervened militarily in Gaza with the stated objectives of destroying the Hamas. It looks upon as a terrorist organization. Hamas is also not relenting. The conflict is causing untold damage to the property, life and property of civilians. How do you look the situation?
Well, I think like I said, we cannot say that the Palestinians, especially in Gaza, won, because you cannot say you won when 262 when the war has had 262 victims, many of them children. But my point is that actually at the end of the war, the Palestinians are stronger than they were at the beginning of the war. And
Yes. Mr. Joel, can you continue, Mr. Joel?
Yeah. Well, there's some noise in the background. I don't know what that is. Okay. Now I think
Frank, mute your mic now. Frank. Mute your mic,
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but mute your mic. Someone else is speaking. You will be invited to speak.
Yes, Mr. Joel. Joel, continue.
yes. I think also internationally, the Israelis have lost. I'll make that very, very specific. I think that the reaction, in particular in the US, which is very important because the US provides close to $4 billion worth of armaments to Israel. And what is happening in the US is even Jewish people are beginning to question Israel. and the goals of Israel. I would not be surprised if the boycott and divestment movement would gain or has gained a lot of new adherents. So I think the position of Israel, and in particular Bibi Netanyahu in the US, has gotten weaker. Just last point. I'm not sure, I don't know enough about the politics of Israel. But my guess is there's still time for Netanyahu to get replaced as prime minister. And if he's removed as prime minister, the prosecution, his prosecution for corruption will continue.
So you mean he should be
all
prosecuted?
around-
Hello, Mr. Joel. You mean Mr. Netanyahu should be?
If you look at, sorry?
You mean Mr. Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, should be prosecuted on the human rights violation of in Palestine?
No. He's under indictment for corruption, and his trial cannot continue as long as he is prime minister. The main issue is that Netanyahu uses war as a way to keep himself in power, and that's a crime.
Thank you, Madam. So my question to you is, when Israel has agreed to give self-governance to Palestine and PLO has accepted the right to exist on the Israel people, why is the conflict not stopping? It is because of the support of countries like Iran to Hamas that is leading to a war by proxy against Israel?
I think both sides need to come back to tables and go back to two-state solution. I think especially for Malaysia, I think even though I'm opposition, but I think two-state solution actually is our stance. Is Malaysia's stance since I think quite some time already, and I think it is a solution actually approved in United Nations and also approved by many countries. So I think for us to solve this conflict in Gaza, I think it's important for both sides to come back to tables and talk about these two-state solutions, and so that we can agree on the pre-1967 borders. I think that is very crucial. I know for both sides, there are segments who are not happy with it, because we have people who want no zero. They are extremists who want merely. I mean, they want to evict all the Arab residents using Israel law, but they are also Palestine area, and they are some fundamentalists who doesn't want any Israel in that particular area as well. So I think some country maybe want Iran, don't know why one state, by hardcore. There are certain hardcore segments in also America also want one state, even though the one state they refer to is actually totally different. One is an Israel state with Arabs living there, and the other one is Palestine state with Jews living there. So I think if we go to if we listen to the extremists, then this conflict can never be resolved. And therefore, I think it's important to bring both sides to come back to the table, and then to talk about two-state solution, and hopefully both sides can agree on pre-1967 borders. I think that is very crucial, and that is very important. I think actions by Israel recently shows that they are evicting people staying in Gaza and also West Bank, which I think this is very uncalled for, and this can never bring peace to that particular region.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. That's the last question. Mr. Giri, what action can be taken to put an end to this conflict? What needs to be done to rehabilitate and shelter population of Gaza Strip?
The comrade Joel Rocamora made a very good point. We should, and the Palestinians should also keep a very close eye on the politics in Israel. You see, Israel politics also is in a flux. In last 2 years, they had 5 general elections to decide who should be the prime minister. Benjamin Netanyahu, who uses the muscular policy, and out of all the prime minister, I think he is more aggressive and warmongering. So he is under severe, serious corruption charges. And as Joel said, he survives by fighting battles. So Palestinian, including Hamas, should not give a chance or an excuse to Benjamin Netanyahu to continue the war. So if Palestinians can play on the political dynamics within Israel, which is a democracy and there are competing groups, then there could be also a solution. Having said that, Comrade Ching said both the countries have to come to a negotiating table, end the violence. Two-state theory has been accepted by the entire world and by Palestinian Israelis. So why there should be a fight? Any more provocative action to break that arrangement and to escalate violence should be discarded and should be discouraged. And what happened in the East Jerusalem was a provocation by Israelis.
Mr.
So,
Joel, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So we are running short of time. Sir, Mr. Joel, your last comment.
I think many people try to, in the interest of peace, say, I have two hands. On the one hand, Israel has certain rights, and on the other hand, the Palestinians. I don't think that that's the correct approach. The fact is, Israel is an occupational, an occupying power in the West Bank, and they have kept Gaza as a prison for 2 million people with no rights. And this war has degradation is one where you have a colonial power that's trying to maintain an apartheid state in Palestinian areas.
Mr. Joel, we'll take I just interrupted you. We'll take a comment from
Thank
this
you.
Frank Huzur. Frank Huzur, just you hear me? Frank Huzur. Frank Huzur, you hear me?
Am I audible?
Yeah. Yes,
Can you hear me, sir?
We have only 3 minutes. So you can say anything like what you want to say regarding the.
Very sorry for the problem. Joel is making very good point, and Dr. Giri also, and the parliamentarian women from Malaysia, they are all making very pragmatic point. And now we have ceasefire today, which was not in sight for past 11 days. We have to admit one thing, that Israel has lost. They have lost the war in media. They have lost the war in minds of people all over the world. And people for the first time, and those who are actually aspiring for peace within Israel and within Palestine, they have also asserted themselves on a very larger scale through social media, what we are observing. And we must admit that Israel doesn't have moral authority tomorrow. And with this Prime Minister in office, Mr. Netanyahu, a real warmonger, indicted in his homeland, he must go. And I believe there must be kind of uprising in Israel. And of course, very good point Dr. Giri also made. Like, there are various factions in Palestine, and they have to play very intelligently. The moderate faction especially, they have to actually strategize how to exploit the political divisions on the Israeli side. And as far as a real solution, the two-state solution, we all actually wish Palestinians should get the two-state solution. They should get the homeland. Oslo Accord should also be taken into account, not only the failed Camp David one. And we have to actually put Israel under pressure. We are disappointed by the delicate balancing act our government here in India did, in the administrations.
Thank you.
So that
Thank you all of you.
act is,
So we will conclude this session. Sorry for this interruption. You have got some disturbance in this mobile connectivity. Sorry for that. So I welcome all of you, and I am very highly thankful all of you who have spared the time to come our show. So I hope we will catch you all of you in the next time, because there was a lot of some problem in the videos, and hopefully you will accommodate me in next program.
Thank you.
Thank you all of you.